Yo, so Robin's character preview and her signature light cone just dropped, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at these so that we can gauge their value. First, we're going to go ahead and take a look at Robin's signature light cone, then we'll be taking a look at the character preview, her traces, her full kit and abilities, etc. after that, and I'll link that video in the pinned comment and description below once that's ready, after we do this light cone, because I always separate them because some people only care about one or the other sometimes. We'll also be comparing her signature light cone to some of the other light cones we already have in the game, because obviously people care about that a lot. But for a warning, her signature light cone works so much better on her than everything else. It's kind of wild. You know, it's not like with Aventurine and his signature light cone. There were so many other options you could use. It's almost like bait. It's not the same case for Robin. So let's go ahead and take a look at this value. The wearer gains 1 stack of cantillation every time an ally attacks. Each stack of cantillation increases the wearer's energy regeneration rate by 3%, stacking up to 5 times. So that essentially means 15% once you have all stacks. When the wearer uses their ultimate, it removes cantillation and gains cadenza. Cadenza increases the wearer's attack by 48% and the team's damage dealt by 24%, lasting for 1 turn. So let's break that down real quick. Let's go ahead and look at this last part here. This is 1 full sentence. So all of these effects only last for 1 turn. But that's actually fine, because the interesting thing about Robin is that when she uses her ultimate, she's not going to be able to attack for a little while. So that's going to be totally fine. Those buffs are going to last a lot longer than you might expect. She's going to have a really, really nice burst window when she ends up using her ultimate, so your team is going to have a lot of damage output during this very interesting and unique ultimate phase that she provides for your team. So this is actually pretty sick. This buff only lasting 1 turn, this is actually totally fine. This is essentially balanced because she's already such a good character, right? And this very important part at the top here, this 15% energy regeneration rate is really, really good for her, because I'm just going to say it now. I know it's still a little bit early, but letting this one thing slip I don't think is that big of a deal, and I think it's important for players to know. Robin will have a very, very high energy cost for her ultimate, kind of like Argenti having a super duper high cost for his ultimate. And she really, really needs that ultimate to go off in order for your team to properly work. So having really good energy regeneration rate on the cone is very, very important. This is essentially a hint. Whenever you're looking for a light cone for a character, always look at the signature light cone. This will give you a hint at what works really well on the character. For example, she's going to want attack. She's going to want, damage percent if she can get it, and she's going to want energy. And so I think that this is a very important thing to look into, because her ultimate cost is very, very high. Now, within her own kit, and we'll go ahead and take a look at this character preview, like I said, in a separate video, but she gives herself a bunch of energy within her own kit. So she is going to get a bunch from herself, but obviously, as you can see from the light cone, this little bit of this 15% is a lot. I'm not aware of another cone that gives you more energy regeneration rate than this. This is a lot. So this is a pretty big hint that you're definitely going to want to consider energy regeneration rate on a signature cone for her. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other options. Briefly, let's just go ahead and point this out, that these stacks do fall off once she uses her ultimate, but then your entire team is going to have attack opportunity right after that. Her ultimate gives your entire team turns literally right after the ult. So you're going to get all these stacks back basically immediately. Let's go ahead and take a look at these other cones here. I first want to point out something that a lot of people are probably not going to immediately think of at all, because no one usually uses this cone. Horus. After entering battle, it increases the attack of all allies by 12%. This effects of the same type cannot stack. Obviously, this is not her best option. Okay, this really isn't. I just wanted to point this out because I thought it was kind of cool. She wants attack, right? And your whole entire team usually wants attack unless they're, a character like a Blade or something like that, right? So this is actually kind of an interesting cone. Clearly, her best 3-star option. Not her best, but I just wanted to point that out. Kind of an interesting option there. Dance doesn't seem like it's going to work on her pretty much at all, because this wants to give when she basically has dance built into her already. So you don't really need dance on her. It doesn't do anything really. Your team's already going to act immediately after she ultimates. So the fact that you're advancing your entire team's actions forward by 24%, you're already getting it advanced forward by 100%. You don't need this cone. Now, if you have another support character that you're pairing with Robin, then yeah, that's going to be a very, very powerful synergy because you're going to get a ton of actions because of Robin's ult, and now you're going to give everybody else even more actions forward with your other support character. That's going to go crazy, dude. That's actually a super wild combo. Great cone, but probably not for her, right? Now, Planetary Rendezvous, pretty solid cone after entering battle. If an ally deals damage, if it has the same damage type as the wearer, the damage dealt increases by 12%. So this is a very niche cone. It's only going to work on specific teams where you have like a physical DPS on your team. But right now, as far as I can think of, the only character that like you might want to pair with Robin that's really, really strong, that's like a follow-up character, for instance, is Clara. So if you're running her with Clara, this is going to be really, really good. You know, if you run her with any other character that's a physical type main DPS character, this cone could actually be really, really solid. But as you may have noticed, I pointed out how important energy regeneration rate is from her signature light cone, and I haven't mentioned a single cone with energy regeneration rate. So let's go ahead and talk about that. Memories of the past. When the wearer's break effect is increased by 56% with this cone at super imposition 5. When the wearer attacks, additionally regenerates 8 energy. This effect cannot be repeatedly triggered in a single turn. Very solid cone. Robin's also a physical type character. So, and physical breaks are the best breaks in the game. They provide the most damage. So if she just so happens to break with this cone on, that's going to be like pretty good, I guess. Not like necessarily the best. You would have probably rather weakness broken with your main DPS anyway. But hey, this could end up being kind of nice if you end up having that. But again, you really only want this cone at signature, a super imposition 5 in most cases, because she really wants the energy regeneration rate really, really bad. If you don't have super imposition 5 of this cone, I wouldn't run this. I'd run Meshing Cogs instead. It's easier to acquire. It's everyone can take this. Everyone should have this cone at S5 unless they're a brand new player, right? After the wearer uses attacks or gets hit, it additionally regenerates 8 energy. This effect cannot be repeatedly triggered in a single turn. Robin will have some crowd control immunity in part of her kit, but she's not immune all of the time. So the reason why I point that out is that even if she gets crowd controlled and she doesn't get to have her turn, she'll still gain the 8 energy because this happens every time the character attacks or gets hit. And she has a skill that will last for several turns, so she will be attacking most of the turns that she gets. So these cones, Meshing Cogs, and Memories of the Past, very, very solid options, as they usually are. They're usually very good cones for Harmony characters. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about Bronya's signature light cone here, and we'll go ahead and take a look at some of the other, premium light cones as well. This light cone gives you 10% energy regeneration rate and regenerates 1 skill point when the wearer uses their ultimate on an ally. This is going to work on Robin because she uses her ultimate on all your allies. And so this will work. This effect can only be triggered once after every 2 uses of her ultimate, so it's not going to pop. It's not going to give you the skill point back that often, but the energy regeneration rate will stick around the whole entire time. And when the wearer uses their skill, the next ally taking action except the wearer deals 30% more damage for 1 turn. So that's the problem with this cone that I don't like for Robin. If your team is synergized in a way that right after Robin's turn, your main DPS attacks after, this cone will be great on her, but it's only going to matter every time that Robin uses her skill. She's not going to be using her skill that much. It's just like with Ron May. You're going to use her skill, then you're going to switch to using a basic attack for several turns. So this light cone's only going to matter once every like so often. It's not, and by the way, even then, imagine the next character that takes action after Robin is your healer or your tank or something like that. It's not going to be that much damage. Like, who cares if you're buffing your healer or something like that? You need to be buffing your main DPS. So I actually don't like this cone for Robin unless you're only using it for the energy regeneration rate and that's all you care about, then there you go. But Meshing Cogs and Memories of the Past will be more consistent than this cone for her, so just keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and take a look at Ron May's signature light cone. Obviously, you have that nice break effect. When the wearer uses their ultimate, it increases the ally's damage by 24%, lasting for 3 turns. And should the wearer's break effect, that part doesn't matter. Sure, she's not going to have enough break effect. But at the start of each wave, all allies regenerate 10 energy immediately. Effects of the same type cannot stack. So this is nice for the energy that you gain, but it only happens every wave. That's not consistent enough for Robin, in my opinion. It's just not. You're not getting enough energy from the cone. But you do get a lot of damage off of the cone, and you get it for 3 whole turns. So this is going to pretty much last, this is going to give you a damage bonus for her entire time, the when she's outside of that burst window. So this will still give you a lot of damage, and this will stack with her skill. So this is going to be a pretty solid cone for her if you're okay with her ultimate not going off that often. So just keep that in mind. This is a lot slower for Ranmei, but you get a lot of power from it. So that might be kind of nice for some players. Let's go ahead and take a look at Sparkle Signature Light Cone. And for warning, I'm not a big fan of this one for Robin as well. It could work on her depending on your team's synergy, how well your team is speed tuned, but likely it's not going to end up being as good as you might think. Let's go ahead and point out why. It increases the wearer's crit damage by 32%. That's not really going to do much on Robin unless she's built for crit, and you're not going to really want to build her for crit. You're going to want to build her for attack so that her buffs are really, really strong. So at the start of the battle, the wearer gains mask lasting for 3 turns. While the wearer has max, the wearer's allies have their crit rate increased by 10% and their crit damage increased by 28%. For every 1 skill point the wearer recovers, including skill points that exceed the limit, they gain 1 stack of Radiant Flame. And when the wearer has 4 stacks of Radiant Flame, all the stacks are removed, and they gain mask lasting for 4 turns. So this is nice because at the start of battle, you're just going to get that 10% crit rate and that 28% crit damage. Very nice, very solid. Actually, a really solid buff there. The thing is, though, the reason why this light cone works so well on Sparkle is because Sparkle doesn't ever have to really use her basic attack to gain the skill points back. She can just keep spamming her skill, get to her ultimate, and then her ultimate immediately re-triggers this effect. Every single ultimate, she re-triggers this effect because she immediately will gain 4 stacks of Radiant Flame because she'll immediately gain 4 skill points back for your team. And this will not work on Robin the same way. Yeah, Robin will use a skill, and then she'll switch to using a basic attack for a little while, so you'll start gaining back those skill points. But then after she ults, she won't be able to take action for a little while. So all of a sudden, you might be sitting there not buffed by this cone during your burst window. And you might not be able to get it back until after your burst window starts again. So if you're 0 cycling or something like that, or you're clearing in 1 or 2 cycles, you're probably okay to not worry about having to re-trigger mask. This cone is actually pretty solid if you're going to be clearing very, very quickly, or if your team is speed tuned in a way that makes it work. But likely, if your team's just a little slower or more average, or more casual, this light cone might not be very good for you because the buff will be nice at the beginning of battle, but if it runs out, it's going to be harder for Robin to get mask back than it would on a character like Sparkle. So just keep that in mind. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying this cone's bad. I'm not saying that Ranmei's cones are bad. I'm just saying that they might not work as well as you might think for Robin specifically. Now, you have some of these other cones here, like Past and Future, again, has the same problem that Bronya's cone has. It's just not going to probably work. You're going to use the skill, and then your healer or something's going to go, and then it's not going to work the way you want. Again, if you have your team speed tuned a specific way, this cone could be good. So just consider it, but you're not going to use your skill that much, so it's not going to be a good cone. Just keep that in mind. Carve of the Moon is too inconsistent for me. It's too random for me. I'm not a big fan of the randomness. It could be good. It could be good, but it's basically like playing like QQ, even though QQ is not on your team. Now, Dreamville Adventure, I kind of like this, but I don't necessarily like it for Robin. Because it buffs your basic attack if she uses her basic attack. Then it'll buff your skill if she uses her skill. Then it'll buff her ult if she uses her ult. So this could be a really good cone, but yeah, it doesn't usually synergize as well as most players will want it to. And with a character that's kind of more complicated, like Robin, this light cone is not probably going to be the one you want to use for her. It doesn't synergize as well. Doesn't give you any energy. It's just not the cone for Robin, in my opinion. So the cones I like for Robin are things like Memories of the Past. The energy is really, really good. Meshing Cogs. If you're a brand new player, you have literally no options at all. Probably Meshing Cogs. Maybe even Chorus, because you're a new player. This might be a good, decent cone for you. You easily can take it to S5 and get that buff. I don't really like Bronya. I like Ron May's cone. That could work well. I kind of like Sparkle's cone. That could work well. If you're pairing them with either Sparkle or Ron May, obviously you're just going to want to throw it on Sparkle or Ron May. It's more valuable there instead. So as you can see, like I was saying earlier, these cones, there are cone options for her besides her signature, but this signature light cone is just so good on her compared to literally anything else you could possibly be using. So yeah, if you're gonna be a big time Robin main and Robin's your girl, she's your waifu, whatever, you might want to consider getting this cone because it's actually a really solid option. I talked a lot of crap recently about Aventurine's light cone because Aventurine's light cone is good and everything like that. It's his best option, but there are so many other great options that are really not that far behind, such as Gepard's signature light cone. This is what I usually tell people to do, is just put Gepard's light cone on him and call it a day. And if you have, even day 1 of my new life at S5 gives you a solid amount of defense and an all-type res. You have Trend of Universal Market, again, at S5, very solid defense static buff right here, and a DOT that can trigger Acheron's talent, for example. There are so many good options for him, you don't really need his signature. But in the case of Robin, although you do have some good options, the signature synergizes with her so damn well that you might have a bit of FOMO if you don't have the cone. I'm not too sure what I'm going to do, to be perfectly honest, because this cone is so good on her, it's very tempting for even someone like me who usually doesn't pull light cones. I've only pulled, like, Acheron's light cone, I think, and I think Jing Liu's light cone, I think. That's pretty much it. And so, like, even I'm considering this cone because I think this cone's so good on Robin. So here's my suggestion to you guys. I know I've been waffling a lot, but this is the last sentiment I can give you guys before we close this out. Don't pull her signature light cone on day 1. Try something else first. And if that works, just use that, right? It might be more valuable to your account to save the Jade and pull another character coming out in the future, like Firefly, aka Sam, or something like that. That might be more valuable to your account than having this one cone on Robin. And one last thing before we actually close everything out here. Acheron is going to be getting a new 4-star option light cone. This is Boundless Oreo, whatever. Increases the wearer's crit rate by 8% when the wearer deals 24% crit damage to enemies that are currently defense reduced or slowed. This is at Superimposition 1, by the way, so obviously this light cone is going to be cracked at Superimposition 5. So if you didn't get her signature, this is going to be the light cone you want to get. It's stuck to the gacha system, though, so you're going to have to get lucky pulling for it, so don't rely on this cone necessarily. Just, cross your fingers, dot your I's, and hope that you get this one day. Now, defense-reduced enemies, that's easy because she's going to be paired with defense-reducing enemies more than likely. And slowed enemies, you can do this with imprisonment, which is something that someone like Aventurine can do. So the best supports for Acheron, the best sustains for Acheron, will work with the cone. So that's built-in synergy. Anyways, I've been waffling way too much. I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm about to drop the character preview for Robin as well. Stay tuned for that. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.